Hi, everyone. Tom Weaver here with Come to the Table Ministry, and we're welcoming in this morning a good friend of mine, Mark Denison from Bradenton, Florida. Mark's been a good friend of mine for several years, spoke several times at our men's retreat in October up here in Annapolis, Maryland, and just wanted to bring him in to talk a little bit about his ministry and what's going on in his life. So let's welcome in Mark.
Hey,
Morning,
Tom.
Mark.
Good to see you.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. Get rid of
Good.
that nice scenic background there we had for a minute.
Yeah, I like that.
So tell us a little bit, I guess, about your story, Mark. I know you've got quite a story. You were a NBA chaplain, you're a pastor, and going through this battle of sexual recovery. So just, I guess, fill the audience in a little bit on who you are, where you've been.
Good. Thanks, Tom. From Houston. I was not raised in a Christian family. Came to faith in Christ as a teenager because of a bus ministry that came through our apartments where we lived. I felt a call to ministry when I was 15, began preaching at 17, and then went to Christian college and seminary. Did kind of typical stuff you do as you become a pastor. So we planted a church in Houston when I was in my 20s, stayed there for 18 years, pastored two other churches. So over 30 years, was a senior pastor in Texas, in the Houston area, then Dallas, then back in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But during that time, was also living a double life as a sex addict. When I was a child, I went through some difficult moments of abuse and trauma, partly sexual abuse, physical abuse. Had some other physical issues. I was legally blind by the time I was 8. Always had eye surgery for that. Had braces on my legs because my bones didn't develop properly, so I couldn't walk normally until I was about 5.
Mm.
Had speech impediment until I was 15. And so this all led to a lot of insecurity. Didn't have much engagement with my parents on an intimate level. And so, as you know, sexual addiction is an intimacy disorder, and
Sure
I
is.
certainly had that. And so that drove me at a young age into looking for intimacy in all the wrong places. So I was living the life of a sex addict throughout most of my ministry until I got into recovery when I was already into my 50s.
Awesome. So what brought you to Florida then?
Well, we got into recovery in 2013, and by that I mean that my wife discovered my past, some things on my phone that didn't add up, and so
Mm-hmm.
we got into therapy. I told her my story, did a full clinical disclosure, started attending 12-step meetings twice a week while I was still pastoring a large church just north of Houston. But about a year after that, someone at the church discovered my disclosure on my computer. They hacked my computer, found my disclosure. They exposed that to some key leaders in the church. And so, even though I was in recovery at that point, they asked for my resignation, which I did. And we moved to Florida within 2 months, sold our house, sold everything, moved here to be near our son. Didn't know anybody else here, didn't know where we were going to live, found an apartment sight unseen, and just felt like we needed to start over someplace. And again, having no idea what that meant because all I knew was pastoring. When I was pastoring in Texas, I was chaplain for the Houston Rockets basketball team. The last official thing I did in ministry there was chapel for the Rockets to say, see ya, what's happened? And I'm gone. And so we moved here to be near our son. And the transition was pretty interesting because I didn't have a job. So I was driving for Uber and Lyft and delivering groceries and doing crazy stuff like that. I had a sports memorabilia collection. I sold that. We used the money to live on during the first year as we began to just kind of figure out what God wanted us to do next.
Mm-hmm. I know you got a big heart for pastors, being that you were one and going through all that you went through. And I guess share a little bit about what you do, and is that, or would that be a avenue that you would suggest churches to go through now when they find a pastor caught in sexual sin, kind of just throw him to the curb and put him out to pasture rather than helping him heal from the devastation of the addiction?
Yeah, you said that really well. Yeah, we started our ministry in 2017. There's Still Hope, with a focus on helping men who are sex addicts find recovery. I lead them through a 90-day recovery process, and then also lead several groups. We call them freedom groups.
Mm-hmm.
My wife works with wives that have been traumatized through their husband's addiction. But pretty early into the ministry, we started attracting a lot of pastors that were reaching out for help because that was my background. And so pastor friends who knew what I was doing were referring people to me and me to people. And so that part of the ministry began to become a pretty large part of what we do. And so I actually wrote a book called Porn in the Pew, talking about how massive this issue is within society, but especially in the church and even within among pastors. We know that 37% of pastors are looking at porn at least once a month, and a lot of other issues going on as well. So that is a big part of what we do. And we do encourage churches, when their pastor is struggling in this area, or anyone, but especially the pastors, to come. Because I do 2 groups just for pastors. Every Thursday and every Tuesday at 4 Eastern, I've got a group just for pastors, because they need that safety, of anonymity with other pastors. And so, we recommend that people do that. We also work with churches that are going through the process of dealing with their pastors who struggle in this area, so they don't just kick them to the curb, but that they deal with them redemptively. And we love to walk them through that process.
Yeah. So many times everybody puts a pastor up on a pedestal, and they're above all, and they're normal too. They're average guys too that have struggles too. And it's so hard and so important to provide a safe place for them to go and share what they're going through and share and walk through the healing process. And I know you guys do a lot for pastors, and appreciate that. I see that big fish behind you. What's that fish back there? Kind of transition real quick into that, huh?
I mentioned I pastored 3 churches. The second one, we had a guy in our church who he's in the construction business, has a nice company. He's been doing it forever. He's 92 years old now, and he's got this big ranch that's out northwest of Dallas Fort Worth area, about 30 minutes from where my church was. And when I'd only been at the church a short time, he came by to see me. He said, "I've got this ranch, and if you ever want to come out and fish or stay there, I've got a house you can come stay at by yourself, and I want to support the church financially and help you any way I can. And anytime you need a retreat, a place to get away, you can come out here." And I said, "Let me pray about it." Yes. And so I was there, almost within the hour. And he's got this 17-acre lake that's got bass that go all the way up to 15 pounds. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I caught this fish. It was 8.5 pounds at the time. I call it 12 pounds now. But I had it mounted because I'll never catch or shoot anything again, probably. And I lead groups by Zoom from this seat. And so I want to look like I'm a little bit manly. So that's why I've got a fish there. And I've got this jersey over here.
Look at that. A true Houston fan, huh?
My Astros. Yeah.
We won't hold that against you.
Yeah, try not to. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So for many, like I said, Mark was up at our retreats the last 2 years. He missed this past year, and because of I don't know if you want to share about your heart attack and the health issues you were going through.
Sure.
But if you didn't know Mark, and when he came to our retreats, the first time he came, I didn't really know him that well, and he had some things going on there, and it turned out you were more you were a comedian as well as a great speaker for all the men that were at the retreat, because some of the stuff you said there was just so inspiring, but some of it was so funny too, and you like busting on guys and having a good time and enjoying being around the guys. So I appreciate that, and appreciate your humor as well as your knowledge in this recovery journey. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but he is a comedian too. So he's
where you were going. You were going to compliment me on my boyish good looks. That's where you were going. I don't know.
I can see why I forgot that one.
Clearly, that's where you're going.
Yeah.
And I want to say about those retreats you did, man, they're unbelievable. Anyone watching this or hearing this, guys, if you want to get away someplace that's absolutely drop dead gorgeous and be around guys that are just normal, and it's easy to be funny when you're around guys having a good time, and these guys enjoy each other. I've never been in a place where the guys keep coming back every year, and because they just love it. And Tom does an amazing job in putting this together and connecting with them, making them feel safe. Tom, I got a call this week from a guy in Washington State who was referred to me by a guy that was at the retreat 3 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how it connect those dots, man?
Sure.
From all over. Yeah.
But what you're doing there is amazing. Anyone that needs to go to a great retreat needs to do that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can come back this year.
I'm down. If I don't have a heart attack this year, I'm in.
And I know you have one coming up too, don't you?
We're going to do our first retreat. You're going to speak at it, I hope. It's going to
Hmm.
be in October, similar time frame of
Yep.
years. I think 2 weeks before or after, I forget. It's going to be east of Dallas. We'll
Hmm.
have more details on that soon.
Yeah. Good deal. Good deal. So tell a little bit more about There's Still Hope is a nonprofit. So if anybody wants to check out your um, ministry, your everything you got going on there as far as groups, things like that, just go to your website,
Yeah,
there'sstillhope.org, I believe, correct?
it is. Yeah, there's still hope.org. And as I briefly touched on a moment ago, we do a 90-day recovery program.
Hmm.
And it's based on a workbook that I've written that takes guys through a pretty intense program. In the workbook, they do a daily reading and a daily written exercise. Then we get on the phone for an hour each week to go over the material for that week. And we also do groups, as I know you do. We
Hmm.
call them
Hmm.
freedom groups, not a very original name, but it's a good name. And we go through a workbook that I've written called the Life Recovery Plan. That's a 1 year workbook. And love to have guys check it out. We've got 8 groups throughout the week. So if they go to the website, there'sstillhope.org, they can see the times for the meetings and how to
Hmm.
sign up for them. And it doesn't cost a dime just to sit in once or twice and check it out. And would encourage guys to do that.
Awesome.
Again, my wife works with spouses, so she has
Hmm.
groups for women and does one-on-one coaching for women as well. And then we do couple stuff. We have a
Yeah.
couple couples groups we do, and so yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're really enjoying the ministry.
It is really neat to see the progression of people walking this journey, isn't it?
Hmm.
We see a lot of ugliness, a lot of heavy stuff, but we also see a lot of redemption when the couple comes out on the other side. I think it was Jake Porter from Absat said something. The statistic is 80% of the people that go through this, that come out on the other side, are happier for going through this journey.
Yeah.
It's a different life. Obviously like you said, you lived a secret life for most of your adult life until you were found or caught. And same
Hmm.
with me. And, coming out on the other side, it's changed our lives. It's impacted so many people along the way with the ripple effects, but the ability to, heal from the brokenness and to understand what was the driving force behind this and come out on the other side better for it. And, now you're helping others.
Yeah, the fun thing is like at your retreat and just being around other guys that are in
Hmm.
recovery is they're the most authentic men on earth.
Yeah.
And because this incredible burden has been lifted as they get into recovery, there's a joy that was never there before. And guys that are not sex or porn addicts, they don't know this battle, but they have some battle.
Hmm.
And because there's some battle, if they don't get help and don't come clean, that's just going to weigh them down. I was reading something yesterday that said that when you broke down the numbers, a recent research project that was done found that 75% of the adult population in the United States has some addiction,
Hmm.
and that within that group, 58% of those have more than two. And so when you do the math, that means that 44% of the adult population in the United States has more than two addictions.
Wow.
And this is just one of those. And
Hmm.
the difference is for us, because it is so life changing, you can lose your marriage, you can lose your reputation.
Hmm.
When we get help, we come to this community that is just absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
For me, I love the church. I mean, I'm really active in my church, pastored the churches for years, so I believe in the church. But the church is the body of Christ wherever you find it. And when I get around other brothers that are in recovery, there's so much
Hmm.
joy and so much laughter and so much positivity there and
Absolutely.
freedom there that it's the best place on earth to be.
It is. It's awesome. Awesome to be a part of. Well, if you had anything to say, I don't know, to maybe a pastor or maybe a couple going through this, I know lately it's been a lot of couples kind of walking this journey, getting maybe a year or two down the road, and then things maybe don't go back to the behavior of the acting out, but the relational side of it. Is that something that your couples group, or I know you have a new book out for the couples, is that something that
Mhm.
works on kind of post crisis stage, but into the post traumatic kind of growth where they're growing into their relationship?
Yes, and it's our workbook for that is actually a 1 year process. It's
Mm.
got 52 chapters because it is a process. Recovery is not an event; it's a journey.
Journey,
And
yeah.
so we we'll take couples at different phases of their recovery. And so Some have just been discovered, and so we're in kind of a crisis mode. Others are a couple of years
Hmm.
down the road.
Right.
But yeah, building relationships beyond just the recovery itself. We talk a lot about communication.
Hmm.
Talk about everything as practical as how to date again, how to maintain good conversation, how to encourage one another, how to build each other up, things that every couple should know, not just couples in recovery.
Hmm. Hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. Another good thing, I really love your recovery minute every morning. I don't know, it was 5:28 or some odd time in the morning. It hits my inbox, and it's just great to see. I read them every morning. We share them with a lot of the guys in our groups. At the retreat, everybody that's there gets them. So it's just great to read them. I don't know where you come up with some of those crazy stories that you have in there, but they're awesome to read, and I appreciate you making that effort to put
Yeah.
them out there all the time.
First thing we started the ministry. I started writing that. I'd written a devotional book years ago that was a daily devotion when I was pastor. And so it just seemed like a natural thing to do. And I enjoy it so much that when I write the recovery minutes, and anyone who'd like to receive it can sign up at our website,
Hmm.
there'sstillhope.org. I write them. We have a lady that works for us that formats them because I don't know how to do that. And so I just send everything to her in Word document. She has to format it and put images and whatever she does. And so I try to get them to her a month in advance, so she's got plenty of time to work on them. I'm into April now, and it's not because I'm that organized. It's because it's that much fun. I enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
I'm behind on what I'm supposed to do right after this meeting, but I'm ahead on that because I really enjoy writing. And so for anyone in recovery, we call it recovery minutes because it takes 1 minute to read. It's
Hmm.
very short. Now, Tom, it takes him a little longer, but most people get done.
Told you he's a comedian.
Um, uh, Tom comments on, but he never comments on anything past the first paragraph. So I know he's not able to quite finish it. But yeah, I would love for y'all to sign up for that. It's a lot of anecdotes, a lot of statistics, a lot of data, good application. So
Yeah.
I'd love
Awesome.
for them to have it. Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know about our conference coming up here in March, and wishing you and your wife could have come up to speak at it. But I know with the health issues,
Yeah.
traveling's at a premium right now, but maybe next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what a conference.
Mhm.
When I backed out, you upgraded. It's going to be really good. I've got this. I had heart surgery 2 months ago, so had as you know, had a bypass, 5 bypass, which ties the record. You can't have more than five. There's only 5 arteries. So the open heart surgery that followed a massive heart attack. Um, I'm doing great with that, but then I got this thing called a frozen shoulder,
Mm.
which sounds like I thought only people in their 90s got that, but it's very painful. It means I can't use my left arm, and it can take as much as 3 years to get well.
Wow.
Usually it takes a year. And
Mhm.
so I can't travel because I can't lift things. I can't do luggage, boxes,
Wow.
books, and kind of thing. So I had to cancel a lot of things. But if you're doing it next year, I will leave in February to be the first one in the room in March.
There you go. There you go. Love to have you. And maybe next time, I think it'd be awesome if we could bring our wives on, and let our wives kind of speak into
Let's
what
do that. Love to do that.
their journey has been with. I mean, our ministries are kind of parallel, and
Very,
and
very.
we both have our wives involved, and that's not something that happens a lot. And you have a lot of longevity in this, and that's not always the case with a lot of people. It seems,
Right.
and we want to continue to provide hope. So I think it'd be great to bring our wives in, and talk a little bit about their stories, and how they um, see this journey as well from their side, their perspective. So
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know of a guy or a ministry that does parallel what we're doing the way that you do. It's kind of fun to have that connection. Uh,
hmm.
you've been doing these retreats, which I want to learn how you've pulled that off so well because they've just been amazing. And that's our next thing that we're going to try, as you know. But yeah, having our wives that are involved in this as well
Hmm.
and that journey with us is really cool. I'll never forget when I first met you. It was in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
And when you got up to speak, I thought, who is this guy? I mean, I thought you were a former WWE wrestler or something. And and yet I came to learn that you've got the most gentle spirit, great sense of humor,
Hmm.
love people, and are so laid back it's crazy. Which is why I think people love you and why God's using you in such a profound way.
Wow. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
I'm just reading from the email you sent me.
You are a trip, aren't you?
I would say
The
more,
check's in
but
the mail.
yeah, I would say more about you, but I can't read your handwriting. So if you would print next time, it would be easier.
Yeah,
So,
I'll make sure I print it. And I'll
yeah,
put a little.
please.
Good deal. Well, Mark, I really appreciate the time with you today and
Not at
taking the
all.
time out. I know you got a busy schedule, like we all do, going through this, and continue to do what you're doing. Appreciate it, and
Well,
we'll see you hopefully in October.
that sounds great, John. Thanks for your friendship. Thanks for your
You bet.
ministry and for the lives you're touching. It's an honor to send people to you and reference you and
Mm,
to be your friend. And really appreciate this opportunity.
absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, Mark.
Thank
Take
you.
care.